Hello, everyone. Welcome to Bartelle's Money Talk. I'm Johnny, and today we have Mr. Adam Zuckerman. He is an estate planning expert. So, Adam, could you please introduce yourself to the audience and give a little background on yourself?
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on today. Adam Zuckerman, like you said, I'm an attorney. I have an MBA. I founded a company called Buried in Work that helps simplify estate planning and end-of-life tasks. What a lot of Americans don't know is that after somebody passes away, on average, it takes 570 hours or more to administer that estate. And between you and me and everybody that's listening, that is far too much work. So we've got resources to help simplify that process, and I'm glad to be here. So happy to answer.
Thank you, Adam, and thank you for being here on Bartelle's Money Talk. When I was looking at estate planning, and I didn't realize this, but it was like what I found out is only like 66% of people have estate plans, right? And I'm sorry, do not have estate plans. I'm sorry, and only 34% have them. I was like, wow, that's a big number. And I was like, because you would think that is a critical part of anyone's life to kind of have like a plan for when you pass away or when a family member pass away. So, how important is estate planning, Adam?
It's pretty important if you think you're going to die someday. And the reality is that it's going to impact us in one way or another. And the stat that you mentioned, they say that 2/3 of Americans don't have a will or a trust, and those are foundational elements of estate plan. But having an actual estate plan goes much farther than that. But I'm actually going to counter. And this is a really neat stat that a lot of people don't know about. And that is that 100% of Americans do have an estate plan. And that's kind of contradictory. If we just said that 2/3 don't, and then I said 100% do. And the reason why I'm confident that 100% do is because if you die in America without a will, the state is going to dictate what happens to your estate. So you may not have an estate plan that you created, but the government is going to create an estate plan for you, whether you like it or not. So what we're trying to help people understand is that you need to really get all your ducks in a row. You have to plan what happens to you if you have a shirt on your back to millions of dollars estate with multiple properties. It doesn't matter. And you have to figure out what that proper estate plan. Now, most people think that an estate plan is just what happens to your stuff after you pass away. And it's a really important part of it. That's what a will does. And a lot of trusts may go that route. We can help you figure that out. But you really have to go through the process of what if you get hit by a bus, but you don't die? You're in the hospital incapacitated and talk. Who do you want to advocate for you? What do you want to have happen to you? If you do pass away, what happens at your funeral? What happens to your body? How do you want to be treated? There's so much more to estate planning and organizing your life than just having a will or trust. And that's what we're really trying to do.
Nice. So with estate planning, how often, should someone, if they have one, get it updated? Because I even look at a stat on that too, and it was like only like 20% or something like that. I think it was 20% of people update their estate planning like a don't every 5 years. So what are your takes on that? How often should they update it when they have one?
Yeah, so there's a quote that's kind of weird. It's you're unique just like everybody else. And I don't want to say that there's a firm guideline that says you have to update your will every single 5 years because your situation is different from everybody. What we recommend is that the day after you file taxes, so April 16th is a date that everybody can remember, right? You look back and you say, what's happened in my life? Has something happened over the last year that could make me want to update what's in my will, what's in my estate plan? So has somebody been born? Has somebody passed away? Did you job? Did you move houses? Are there medical treatments that came into play that you didn't think about? Have you finally bought your cemetery plot if you did that? Or pre-need funeral insurance? Did you get advance directed? All these different things. So the easy answer is every single year, after you file your taxes, think about what's changed, and then you can update your estate plan accordingly. And then the other side of that equation, if something big in your life happens, you get kids, you get married, you get grandkids, something happens, that's a good time to look at your estate plan. But the important thing is that you create your will, you create your trust if you have one, you create your estate plan today for tomorrow. So if something happened to you tomorrow, but it has to be flexible for you to update it for 10, 20, 30 years. And like you said, that's the really important part because where you are in life today is going to be very different from where you are 10, 20 years from now. And that's what you need to go back and have done. First step is get all your information in order, understand what you have and what you. The second step is then figuring out how to create that plan, if it's on your own or with help. And then you go through that process of updating in place.
So that's great advice, Adam. So could you also share, like, what are some of the advantages of having an estate plan? Because I know some people probably saying, you know what, I don't need one. Yeah, I got it. I'm not going to pass away anytime soon, and I don't
Yep.
need that. I'm young, or either I, I'm just not going to pass away anytime soon, so I don't need it. So, what are advantages of having one?
All right. So there's a lot of different. My father passed, and he's the impetus for us creating Buried in Work. So he had leukemia for 6.5 years. He was over at my house one day. We were doing some woodworking in the basement. He walks up the stairs and he goes, Adam. And when he says I'm tired, it's different than we say it. We take a nap. When he says it, he goes. So he goes to the hospital and he checks in. They run some tests. They tell him to check in. He checks in on Thursday and he passes. Now, if that were you and you were in that situation, if you had a will, if you had a trust, if you had whatever you had in your estate plan done, do you think that you'd like to be in the hospital talking to your family members about where to find this XYZ? Who gets the car? Who gets your shirt? Who gets your doll collection if you have one? Or do you want to actually spend that time connecting with your family members, because once you're gone and you're not going to be able to have those. So getting all this stuff in order before you need it saves you the time and the effort and provides that opportunity, if it isn't a sudden passing away or sudden incapacitation, for you to connect with relatives and your loved ones in a way that you're not going. Also, as people get age over, or they age, their mental capacity facilities can change as well. It's a lot easier to create something when your estate is simple and evolve it over time than having to face everything at once because you might rush it. Now, when we talk about having that estate plan, so I started off saying it takes 570 hours, right? The reason why is because a lot of people don't share what's in their estate plan, if they have one at all, with the people that are going to be impacted. If I invite you over to my house and we're going to make dinner, what are we making tonight? Let's make a meal. What do you want to cook?
Hey, let's cook some steak and some potatoes, and have a little sit down and just enjoy ourselves.
Okay, we're gonna make some steak and potatoes. We're coming over. We're gonna fire up the grill. You're coming over to my house. I've gone to the butcher. We've got some nice ribeyes, right? We're gonna have a baked potato on the side, all the fixings for it. You might want some asparagus or something. Like, it's gonna be one heck of a meal. And when you come in, we got beers on the counter. The charcoal's already on the grill. It's already, heating up and whatnot. We're going to have a good time. It's going to be pretty easy for us to cook that meal. Now, on the other hand, if I invite you over for steaks and you show up, I'm not home from work yet. You don't have the keys to my house. You think the door might be unlocked. You go inside and you go, wait a minute, am I supposed to find where the steaks is and start the grill and figure everything out? But you don't know that I bought a freezer and the steaks are actually downstairs in the basement. You got to go on a scavenger hunt to find that, which is going to be a faster process, which is easier.
Hey, I love the first process.
Right? It's a little bit nicer. And that's what's happening, is that it is really easy if we're working together and we plan things together and we go, if this happens, you're coming over. Here's our game plan. Here's what we're going to do. It's how you win sports games, right? If you come over and everything's disorganized, you go on a scavenger hunt, you try and find stuff. I'm guessing if maybe you can't even eat meat anymore because your cholesterol's too high and I should have bought cauliflower instead, right? If I don't have this game plan, but I have to make now the decisions for you on your behalf, that is what's happening to people without that estate plan in place. So don't make people come over to your house and then cook for you. Make sure the meal's prepped. Get everything in order. Don't go on the scavenger hunt. Trust me, your heirs are.
So, that kind of leads to something else based on that, because, the actual last scenario, that provided a little bit of conflict tied to it, because if you're showing up, you're not there, you don't know where the stakes, you assume the door is open. So what does estate planning do for family conflict? Because I know, some people probably need to hear this, because yes. So could you discuss that a little bit?
All right. I don't know about your family, but my family's not perfect. Sometimes we actually argue with each other. Now, sometimes when things are really important, people like to argue even more. Now, tonight you're going to be my dad and I got a sister, right? If you get sick and you're in the hospital and you got the tube in your throat because it's helping you breathe and stay alive, and the doctor comes to me and says, Adam, you get to decide if we're pulling the tube out or not. But my sister goes, no, I want to decide. How do you think that conversation's going to go? Who's going to win? Right? We may both have that same perspective, but these are life and death decisions sometimes that are really serious, that it's not only deciding who gets to make that decision, but that means they're also deciding what you would want. And having that estate plan in this specific instance, it's called having a healthcare proxy, a power of attorney for healthcare, a power of attorney for medical, depends on where the jurisdiction. But that individual is selected because they know what you want and will advocate based on your wishes. So by getting these documents in place, and there's a lot of it, it's advanced directives, it's power of attorneys, it's a will if you need it. We got a list of all this stuff on comebarrettandwork.com. It's free. Check it out for a lot of our services. It makes it so your family members guess what you might want. They're not scrambling to figure things out. And that avoids conflict, because the last thing that you really want to do in times of grieving and times of stress is make things difficult on your loved ones and your family members. And that's what an estate plan does. It removes that
Yeah, nice. Because I know if you don't have a plan, then to me, I've seen conflict in families when you don't have a plan, and everybody's trying to determine what belongs to who and who should get what. And it's just not a good situation. So
there's so much, like, you need to find stuff for your personal information, your heritage, like even if you have pets. We got a product called the Clear Kit, which organizes everything for you. So if something happens to you, your family literally has all the information. And we literally worked with veterinarians to figure out what questions to ask, because there's a lot that you don't know. There was a guy in Virginia we were talking to a few months ago. He was married, had 2 kids, and he got a divorce, and he updated his will to say if he gets hit by the proverbial bus, each kid gets, and he's like, I'm good to go. I don't need anything, right? Like, how can you help me? And we asked him about his payable on death beneficiaries on his bank accounts, and he hadn't updated, which means that if he got hit by a bus, his ex-wife gets all of his cash from his bank accounts. And fortunately, it's pretty easy to update that, but he didn't realize that because he didn't even know to ask the question. So there's those known knowns, the known unknowns, and the unknown unknowns. You don't want that third bucket to get you. And that's why you can do a lot of the stuff on your own, but you oftentimes want to work with someone just to look over what you did, if you did do it on your own, just to make sure. Big loop.
Yeah, and you brought something very, very good just now, finance, right? So we cannot come on this show without talking about some money. Yeah. So with estate planning, how critical is knowing how your finances work, and like your investments, your properties, your bank, your insurance? How critical is all of that tied to estate planning?
All right. In our Clear Kit, we separate things into 3 different. The first one we mentioned, which was the personal information, your heritage, and your pets. The entire second section is about your assets, your liabilities, your tax, and your insurance. So that's your technology, your passwords and 2-factor authentication, your email accounts, your online accounts. And when you go over to the financial side, it's real estate assets, it's financial assets, your physical and other assets, your income sources, your liabilities, your expenses, your credit cards, your business interests, your non-medical insurance, your tax history. Because the reality is that after you pass away, someone has to deal with all of that. So the first issue is marshaling, understand what is there. Then the second issue there is how do you minimize tax? And for a lot of people, it's actually a pretty simple process. You might be under that gift tax or inheritance tax limit. But if you don't have everything organized, you're not going to know how to do it, because the third thing of doing it, you have to do something with every single one of those accounts. And then when that's all done, you have to file taxes on it. So the estate tax for the person. So if you want to make sure that the process is easy, if you don't want to lose money, because there's plenty of times when people don't find bank accounts and gets turned over to the state and property, you should be working with somebody that can help you understand what you have, get everything in order, and make it easier on everybody. Because the reality is, if you do it on your own for the first time, probably going to miss something. And then later on, when you get that bill or somebody calls you up, you can miss it. So there was one person that was using one of our checklists. The checklist, what to do after somebody dies, there's a corollary for it beforehand. And one of them says, go through every single account that you have and figure out what bills need, because you still got to pay your bills, right? Yeah. If you got a married couple and you're living in the house together, just because one person dies doesn't mean that you get to skip out on your mortgage payment. You can miss your mortgage payment and your rent, kicked out. So she was going through things and realized that her life insurance policy for the husband that was in the hospital was going unpaid because he wasn't paying bills. She was 2 days away from losing $400,000.
Whoa. So how was she 2 days away from losing it?
She had a life insurance policy that they missed payment on, and if they didn't pay, the policy was going to lapse. She'd miss it. Whoa. So she called up and said, hey, here's what's going on. I can see that I literally need to pay this policy in 2 days. Can I have a 2 or 3 day extension on the payment? They notated in the notes. She overnighted a check to them. They got it in time, and literally the person in the hospital died a week and she got that. So wow. It is not just making sure that people know where your assets are, but it's also making sure that they have access to the information when they actually need it. Like she would have lost $403,000.
That would have been a big hit.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. What a story, because could you imagine if she didn't know or she didn't check and she went back 2 days later after the fact?
And the bank wants her to miss it. The insurance company wants her to miss it because that means they get all the cash.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And guess what they would have said? Sorry.
Sorry. Yeah.
What you gonna do?
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's the second binder. The third one that we have, it's all your financial or final affairs, rather, your medical information, your legal information, copies of your last will and testament, ethical will, digital legacy, your medical history. Because a lot of people just don't go to the hospital and pass away. They go into nursing home, they go into assisted living, something happens. So you want to make sure that no matter where you are on that journey, starting really early when you're 18, 19 years old and evolving over time, that your plan shift with you as things change.
See, I like what you said, starting early, because a lot of people feel like they don't need to start early. They can start late, or if they start at all. But starting early allows you to, like you said, kind of get a plan in place, and then you modify as you turn a little bit older. You start modifying your plan, but at least you have one in place that you can modify.
Yeah, and it can grow with you, and it's not expensive either. Like later on in life, when you're figuring everything out, that's when things get really expensive or can be more expensive. If you're young and you just need a really basic will just to set things in place, you want to put in really easy, basic, advanced directives for you. This is who gets to make the decision if something happens. That's easy to do. You put that in place, and then over time, as your estate evolves, as you get more assets, as you get more resources, as your family changes or grows, you get married or have kids or something happens, then you can adjust. But the last thing you want to do is try and play catch up and figure all this stuff out at the last minute, because not only do you miss out on the conversations you want to have, you're doing things during a stressful time. You might not be as thoughtful, but you can also even open yourself up to legal challenge. Oh, they weren't in the right mind. This isn't legally binding. They made a mistake here. And then all the work that you tried to do is for no result that you wanted to have.
Yeah, which is terrible. So Adam, so since we're on this topic, and you did mention taxes a little bit earlier, how can estate planning help minimize your tax burden? But because I know you could possibly, when somebody passed, and if you don't have the proper documentation and stuff, a lot of stuff can happen. How can it help you minimize that and also put more of the actual inheritance back in your pocket?
All right. Most people are going to fall under the inheritance tax. So the reality is that you're not going to be paying the government that much money on transfer of the state itself. But what you can do is you can simplify the process and avoid probate if you want. And probate isn't always a bad thing. People make it sound like it's a terrible thing. It's a process, and the process has to go through the proper steps, but you can speed that process up so you can get the money faster. And that has implications on the transit. For certain tax things, there are ways, then this is a topic for another podcast, an entire class or 6 in the estate planning world. And there's literally books written on that. But you can use a trust to shield assets, so then you have a lower risk or exposure for healthcare costs down the road, or you can put your trusts to cover your houses in a certain way. And I'm simplifying things so it doesn't go into your overall asset bucket, so different triggers don't hit. But fortunately for most people, that's not something you have to look at right now. If you do have a lot of assets, if you have multiple houses, if you're getting older and you're worried about how you're going to pay for your housing or how you're going to pay for healthcare, that's stuff that you can look into. But for most people, if you're just trying to get your basics in place, don't worry about the taxes. Worry about saving that time for your loved ones.
Nice. Yeah, and you're right, because I think that's the key thing what you said, because when you're going through a crisis like somebody passed away, you're really not thinking, I guess, normal sometimes, because you're dealing with that person passing away, and so you just don't know what steps you might want to take or you need to take, because you're not thinking like that right then. And so having an estate plan that helps that process to kind of step you through what you need to go through while you are not necessarily thinking that way.
It's final resting place instructions, the little things like, who do you want to have speak at your funeral if you have one? Do you want to be buried? Do you want to be shot into space? Do you want to be turned into a tree? You want cremated? What type of cremation? And all of these things, that means that somebody else is going to have to think that through for you at a time when they probably want to just be grieving or focused. Like, yeah, it can be nice to have to pick out flowers for somebody's funeral or think about that because you're not thinking about other things. But the reality is that it's a lot easier when all that stuff is, and you go, here's the book, follow the book. Well, what do you want me to do? Look at the book. And you don't even
Follow.
have to sit down and tell people like what's in the book. You can say the book is here. Follow the book. And that's actually one thing that's really important that I want to focus on. You can do everything in your estate plan. You can literally get your will, you can get your documents in place, you can have a prepaid funeral, you can have everything in order. But if you don't tell people that you've done it, and the people that are going to need to know the information doesn't know where that information can be found, it's as if that information doesn't exist. You don't have to tell them what it actually means or what you've done, but you have to say, these are the people that need to be contacted. This is where this information is and resides. So if something were to happen to you, then they can go and get it and have the access.
Yeah, and that's the key right there, the communication piece, right? If you tell nobody, it's like you're in a silo. Nobody knows but you, and so they don't know where to get the information. They don't know what to do. So until you communicate that to somebody else, then you're still like you have a plan, but you really don't have one because nobody knows. So that's good. That's good advice, Adam. Good advice. So what do you think about if you have like children that's minors and setting up in the estate plan? How does that process work, and how should you go about doing it if you have like minor age children?
Do you like your children or not? Because there's two different answers. No, I'm just kidding. All right. So if you have children, so under the age of 18, and they can be legal children that are biological, they can be legally adopted, or even non-minor dependents. So you can be looking after somebody that doesn't, like a special needs trust, special needs individual, right? In your will, you can create designations for guardianship. And that's one of those life events that we mentioned earlier. When somebody turns 18, they're no longer your guardian, or you are no longer their guardian. You may want to update your will because those individuals that you are designating as the guardian that would take, responsibility for that individual, that's not applicable anymore. But you need to set things up. So in the event that you are incapacitated, hit by a bus, disappear for a month, for a week, for a year, your individuals are taken care of. And that is the adults that need to do stuff. It is the minors that will be impacted. It is the plants in your house be watered. It is your pet that be walked. And that's why it's so important to start thinking about this stuff, because you may think, if you have two sisters, and I have two sisters, so I'll use two sisters as an example. One sister might be better positioned to raise children than the other one. It might be location. Maybe one of them lives abroad. It might be financial. It might be that they already have two kids of their own and they can't take another kid or two.
Right.
But all of these things are things that you can start thinking about on your own. You can think about, would they help with somebody else? The key is you got to start thinking.
Right. Absolutely. Because if you don't think about it, then you could really cause your family a lot of conflict later. So that's good advice.
You don't want that to happen. Like some people might want that to happen. I mean, there was a guy I was talking to. His name is Bill, and he lives in Australia. He calls himself the coffin confessor, and people hire him to go to their funerals and stand up and tell people off at the funeral. So you're only here so-and-so because you want my inheritance and you haven't been in my life for 30 years, that type of thing. So maybe some people, they've got some issues that they need to work out, but most people want to solve things and make it easy on their loved one. The event's up.
Wow. So I can only imagine him being at a funeral and everybody's listening like, what?
Yeah. He stands up. He's like, I'm the coffin confessor. I have a letter to read. And he opens it up and reads it, and then he leaves.
Wow.
Yeah.
I never heard of that before, but okay.
Yeah.
That's a new one for me.
Yeah.
So what type of professionals should you get involved in the estate planning process when you're going to set up your estate plans? It's various documents, like you said, that's in the plan. So what professionals should you get involved when you're setting one up?
If there's a few different ways that you can go about it. Most people think of estate plans, they go to their attorney, right? If they haven't. Healthcare providers can help with advanced directives in some instances. That's what happens to you if you're not able to advocate yourself in a medical setting. Oftentimes, tax professionals get involved, CPAs. The trick is that no matter what bucket you pull from, and you can say, I want one attorney here, two financial planners, whatever works for you, you want to make sure that they're all working together. because it's really difficult to have a comprehensive estate plan that makes sense for you if multiple people are doing different things. So a financial planner should know that your attorney is recommending a trust, because the financial planner may have a recommendation of do this is going to maximize your income, where a tax attorney or a estate planning attorney is going to go, yeah, you can do that, but it's going to have a negative implication after you pass away on your spouse. So it really depends how complicated your estate is, who you need to involve. We actually have I need menus on the website, and then on the will page, there's a free quiz you can take that says effectively how complicated is your estate yourself, or do you need some help? And if you need some help, can you do it online because there's online services, which we have relationships with, or do you need an attorney? And then from there, you can start walking through. But generally speaking, we say work with an attorney if you can, at least have them overlook what you did. If you have somebody that helps you with your finances, you definitely need to get them involved, tell them what you did, impact. And then from there, you start bringing in the other finance.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, because you're right. I mean, some people may not have an attorney. Some people might have an attorney. Some people might need an accountant. It's all, you're right. So thank you for that. So I know you've been doing this for a while now, Adam. So, and I'm sure you've done seen some great examples here of what I'm about to ask. So what are some common mistakes that you've seen throughout your time doing this that people should avoid?
Doing everything on your own without double checking if it's the right. So we'll take a very, very simple example. A will. You would think that a will is the same no matter what state but the requirements for having a will be legal in a specific jurisdiction is state specific and changes based on where that will was. You may need to have two witnesses, may not be able to be related to. They may have to be of sound mind. They may have to be of a certain age. You might need a notary. You might not need a notary. You may have to sign it in person of somebody. You may be able to just do a test to it. It could be a holographic will. And if you try and do it on your own and miss one of the requirements, then that will might not be valid. And then everything that you try to do.
Wow.
And that's really the takeaway for all of this. It goes back to that statement I made earlier of the unknown. Most people don't deal with this until things are really the biggest mistake you can make. Find a professional. It's not that expensive. When you think about how much time this is going to save people. You can say, hey, I need a consult. You can say, hey, I just want to get started. I want to do this, but you need to start somewhere. If you don't, just setting yourself up for a lot of challenge and conflict.
Well, Adam, listen, you done gave some great advice just now. So I'm going to ask you, can you please provide just a couple of like golden nuggets for the audience before we actually close out? Anything that you think that's vital that anyone that would need to know about estate planning, and just anything they need to do. Couple of golden nuggets.
Couple golden nuggets. First golden nugget, start somewhere. Second golden nugget, come to our website. We've got a free estate summary worksheet. If you don't have a will, that's okay. It will just give your family members a review of where you are. Use that to then go to the roadmap. It will walk you through all the different steps and will help you figure out what you need. And we will send you off to someone that can actually help you. If you want to get one of our products, that's fantastic. If you want to go in even deeper, there are 3 questions that somebody should ask about every single one of their accounts, both financial and insurance. And that is, what will happen to this account or policy when I pass away? It's who is authorized to access and communicate with the institution regarding this account or policy when I pass away. And then what benefits or entitlements will be available to my designated beneficiary. And all of these, it's called Ask 3 Questions on the website. There's even a free form that you can download. We give away a lot of stuff. You can fill it out for every single one of your accounts. And if you answer those questions, it will make the process much easier for people that have to get access. The 4th thing, I think we're on the 4th of 5 total, is that you don't have to do it yourself. The conversation can be had very easily with your loved ones, your family members. The trick is just starting that. Now, every single day in America, 1,000 Americans. That means that by the end of the decade, there's twice as 65 and older. And in families like mine that I grew up in, where traditional family, dynamic. My mom, she had a job. She was a teacher. My dad was an attorney. He did a lot of the finance. My mom had to figure things out with my help and some other people's help after my dad passed away, because she wasn't in charge of the finance. And with women outliving men by 5.8 years who are married in the country, there's an entire generation of people that are about to have that. So for those individuals, the trick is help them get organized and understand what's going to happen. You don't want them to have to figure out how to pay all the bills. And it's not saying they can't do it. They just haven't done it before when times are. And the last thing is you have to be very mindful of people. So different religions, different perspectives, different viewpoints. when it comes to end of life, it isn't about what you want for them. It's you honoring their will. We've got an entire section on the site, religious, cultural traditions. It doesn't matter if you're Christian or Jewish or Hindu or Muslim. We've got descriptions and prayers, and you can get educated there about what other people are thinking about. So come to the website. There's a lot of other stuff on there. 1,800 articles, 100 plus checklist guides, different things. Have some fun with it. It's a weird topic. It's not that difficult.
Well, Adam, what is your website? Because I want to make sure that you mention that.
It is buriedinwork.com. So buried, like buried underground, buriedinwork.com.
All right. Well, Adam, I want to thank you for your conversation. It's been pretty informative. And I know it has enlightened me, and I'm sure it's going to enlighten some of the audience here. So the bottom line is, make sure if you don't have an estate plan that you look at getting an estate plan. And it's not too early to start. If you're young, you can start now. If you're older, you can still start. But either way, make sure you get started. So I want to thank Adam for his time. And I want to thank everyone for joining Bartelle's Money Talk. And if you like the content, please like, share, and subscribe. And we'll be back with more content on Bartelle's Money Talk. Thank you very much.